If another couple was considering working with George and Tracy, I wouldn't hesitate to say do it. Make the investment, become that couple instead of looking for someone to model, just become it. And George and Tracy are an excellent path to get there.
Mm. Hi, my name's Crystal, and this is my husband, Bodhi, and we are wealth coaches.
Yeah, before we started working with Amazing International and George and Tracy, we were struggling to find connection in our relationship, sexually, and just getting on the same page around what we were up to in the world and what our future looked like. We found ourselves kind of looping through the same patterns, feeling stuck. And it got to the point where we were both very frustrated.
So while working with George and Tracy, one moment I can recall that really shifted for me in our relationship is using our relationship as kind of like our lab experiment. So rather than seeing each other as the competition or the resistance, there was a shift in using our relationship to create more in the world. And that really opened us up and expanded that when we had conflict, it wasn't something that we needed to take personally, but it was actually something to help us grow in our relationship.
Speaking to the lab, the idea of being in a lab experiment, the shift for us actually happened during a time when we were really focusing on connecting sexually and finding a place where both of us felt like our needs were getting met. They had encouraged us to start seeing every sexual experience as a lab experiment and holding it like if something didn't work right, there was information there for us to take forward. And that really allowed us to take some self-responsibility about where we weren't speaking our needs and where we weren't allowing each other to also feel seen and heard in the experience. That was the point for us where the whole idea of a lab experiment in our relationship really shifted. And then we were able to take that idea out into our businesses and into the way that we interacted with other people and other parts of our relationship where we noticed there was patterns playing out. And as we started to do the work and grow and expand, the capacity of our relationship actually started to look like, well, we're happy and we're we are now being seen by others as an example of what a relationship that is so powerful and alive that it affects the people around us, to where other couples start to ask us, like, what are you guys up to? How do you create this? How can we have that? So not only are other people growing because of our growth, but it's also like filling our cup as far as like the way we're seen in the world. And it just kind of branches out into everything. Like our confidence levels go up, our levels of acceptance in the world goes up. It just expands out everywhere.
One thing that I love about George and Tracy is they don't make anything wrong. Nothing is wrong. Like, even if there was a conflict between Bodhi and I had some feelings about some things he did, or he had some feelings about what I did, or even the way sometimes we were in conflict, they never made it wrong of how we were in conflict. It was more of, let's talk about this. Let's get to what is actually underneath it. So there was never any this need to change. It was more of, hey, let's see what's really underneath that, and let's actually find your true expression of what's wanting to be expressed. One thing that's really changed, especially in our relationship, is that we're in a place of co-creation. So prior to working with George and Tracy, we had our own separate businesses and we were doing our own thing. And as we got clear in our relationship and we got more secure with each other in our relationship, it opened space for us to start co-creating. Now we've become better holders as coaches, holding people's wealth, So that's been really transformative from a holder's perspective.
It completely changed our leadership style from a style of like, this is how you should be, to modeling who we are in the world and leading from that place of vulnerability and just showing up and allowing people to see who we are and wanting to follow instead of feeling pushed by us. Working with them, I mean, there's so many ways that there was assistance from them. The big piece was they would see us as bigger versions of ourselves than we saw ourselves, and we constantly allowing us to step into those roles and to see to have experiences of us as those bigger people, and then reminding us constantly to anchor those moments in as this is who you are, this is what you're up to, this is the leader you want to be, this is the version of you that's actually present in this moment and going forward. And I remember a big piece was too, is we all made an agreement we don't go backwards. I would say one of the biggest hurdles in the beginning was the money. As a couple, we had not ever invested in ourselves in that way before. And, it felt risky at the time and like one of the best decisions we've ever made, looking back on it.
Yeah, and I would also add, too, in the beginning, we were hesitant because there were so many different options out there. There were so many different coaches and programs, seeing how they show up in the world rather than just trying to sell us on a coaching program. We actually saw them for who they were and what they started to offer us. In the conversations we were having with them before we even hired them, we could see that they had something different to offer than what we were seeing out in other courses and programs and coaches.